In my piece on last night's mini budget, I start by talking about what's happening in the rest of the world, and for a number of weeks I've been looking at what's been happening in European economies and the fact that they are in a very genuine crisis. If you look at the German economy or the British economy, let alone the Italian economy. So what's happening in European economies is that the cost of energy has risen dramatically relative to what they're actually selling, the manufactured products they're selling. And the result of that is that their terms of trade has collapsed and the national income is collapsing. And that generates a very severe economic crisis. And they are going into winter in which it is an understatement to say that thousands of people will die of cold. That is an understatement about what will happen in Europe between now and early next year. But Australia is the completely reverse of that, and it's not just the weather. Our terms of trade is rising dramatically because we sell the energy products, LNG, as we are one of the two largest world exporters of LNG. We are the largest exporter by value of coal in the world. So our terms of trade is rising, and our national income is rising because we are entirely the reverse. What is happening is entirely the reverse of what's happening in the Asian crisis. So it is very good. It is very good that the Treasurer will pretend that we are, reacting to difficult times and crisis. But the major problem he has is handing out money, the additional money that he's getting from the benefits of the commodities boom in the terms of trade. The way that the fiscal cycle is supposed to work in the long term is that it's really supposed to go up and down with unemployment. The reason for that is that overwhelmingly the largest single component in the budget is social security and welfare. We spend 5 times as much on social security and welfare as we do on defence, 5 times as much. We spend 2.5 times as much on health as we do on defence, and we spend 1.5 times as much on education as we do on defence. So all of these other things dwarf defence in terms of government spending, but social security is the greatest, and social security moves in a cycle so that it rises when unemployment goes up, obviously because more people need unemployment payments, and falls when unemployment goes down. So here we are now in with the lowest unemployment that has happened in the lifetime of almost everybody who's in the workforce, and you find you've still got a budget deficit. Now, that is obviously the result of a set of political choices. It's not the economy which is generating the budget deficit. It's political choice that's generating the budget deficit. The Australian economy, when we look at figure 1 in the piece I put out last night, GDP is incredibly strong, 3.9% last year, 3.25% this financial year, even next year, which is the slowest growth rate that we're expected to get next financial year, it's 1.5%, and then rises to 2.25% and 2.5%. Treasury thinks that the sustainable long-term growth rate of the Australian economy is 2.5%. Where that is, that sustainable growth rate, it really depends upon the rate of skilled immigration. So I think you can actually produce a higher sustainable growth rate than the Treasury estimate. I think it's around about 2.8% at least. But what we've got is an economy which is in really good shape. Unemployment rises at its very worst in 23-24 to 4.5%. Now, the lunches that I've been doing for the last dozen years with the RBA here, we would talk about where you could get unemployment down to, and most of the discussion has been that getting unemployment down to 4.5% is an unattainable low dream of policymakers in this country. But here we are in this cycle. The worst that's going to happen is unemployment is going to go up to 4.5% from the lowest experience to most people in the workforce, where it is right now, and then it'll come down from that level. The reason this is happening and that we're so well off is, I've said the terms of trade. I show a chart of the terms of trade from the budget papers. Again, what you see, the terms of trade is basically the commodity prices that we sell divided by the imports at the import price. And it's the highest ever in history, as I've said before. Now, they forecast that it's going to fall, and it will fall a bit. But budget papers are famously conservative. I don't mean in a political sense, but conservative in an estimate sense. And they show the commodity prices dropping out of the sky. And we know from coal prices and we know from LNG prices, that's just not happening with the majority of our exports. Well, it's certainly not happening right now. So they may decline. But even if they declined as fast as the budget estimates suggest, they would still be high. Our terms of trade would still be better than 2015, 2016, and a number of times, multiple better, probably twice as good as they were in the 1990s. So this is a very very well-off economy in which a treasurer can pretend about the hard things that he has to do, but the hard thing that he really has to do is just distribute the money. I'm frequently asked about Australian debt, and what it does show here is that gross debt in Australia is gradually rising from 39% of GDP, 37.3% of GDP this year, up to 43.1% of GDP in 25-26. I think that is a legitimate concern. But in comparison, the best international developed country apart from us is Germany, which has a debt to GDP ratio right now of 69%. And the British economy that I've been looking at in recent weeks, the debt to GDP is 85.4% of GDP. So the debt may be rising relative to where we think it is, but it's we're still much better off than most of the countries we're attempting to compete against. What does the budget do? Australia is not a country in crisis. Australia is a rich and confident country, and its only suffering is the problem of distributing the benefits of an extremely healthy terms of trade. The government has responded to this happy position by providing cheaper healthcare and more parent leave. They have tried to expand healthcare and make medicines cheaper. They have provided further services to aged care. They have expanded places in TAFE, and they've expanded places in universities. And in addition to that, they're spending more money on renewable energy. And to make sure they covered all of the spending bases and all the lobby groups that would provide requests to the Labor Party, they're providing more support for affordable housing. Clear this is an economy with plenty of resources. So there may be talk of hardship and difficulty. The major problem this budget faces, however, is the happy difficulty of distributing the benefits of the economy the government has received from a very high terms of trade and very high commodity prices that Australia is now receiving. This provides this country with the unusual experience in a world where many countries are facing increasing difficulties and major hardship. We should be grateful our problems are such little ones.